This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
Doesn't matter if they get in or not. Now they're not going to make any kind of an impact in the playoffs because this offense, the head coach, and the quarterback right now, they're not ready to do that. Let's not kid ourselves. You know what I mean? So, as much as I'm a Tua guy, and I'm not giving up on Tua or anything like that, but I got to go by what you've done for the last 4 weeks now. Well, 3 weeks. Tua played really well last week. So we gotta give Tua a break there. Tua played really well. He played well enough to win last week. Mike McDaniel lost that game last week more than anyone else. Mike McDaniel, and to me, that's when we go into next season. Okay, the guy that is going to be on the magnifying glass before it becomes a hot seat, it's Mike McDaniel. He's got to show serious improvement next year on his coaching decisions because a lot of his coaching decisions suck down the stretch here. He doesn't look at Mike Gesicki. The guy shows up and he makes a play. That's your fault, dude. You're stubborn. You're hard-headed. You have your offense and you refuse to put a playmaker in there. That's your fault, Mike McDaniel. Nobody else. The running game, when it's working, you don't know how to stay with it. You are dominating with that running game, and then you go away from it immediately. The 3rd and 3, what did you do? You go pass and you fail. It's the same shit all over again, dude. You're averaging 9 yards a carry, and you don't want to go for it on 3rd and 3? You get what you deserve. To me, Tua is a disappointment right now, right? But the one thing that I will tell you that has been a disappointment throughout, with or without Tua, has been Mike McDaniel. Very inconsistent. See, the problem is some of you out there, you get kind of like what happened with Flo last year, right? The win streak on the back end, and you're blinded by that because you're so blinded by that you overlook all of the other deficiencies. And so you can't do that with Mike McDaniel. You can't go looking at all the exciting offense and all the points and then not look at all the mismanagement that goes around it also. And he's young. It's his first year as a coach. So we got to give him a break. We got to give him a chance to grow from all of this. But I told you guys from the get-go, he inherited a 9 or 10 win team. He's got to win 11 or 12 games. I told you that. I told you that from the get-go. If he is the offensive guy that he's supposed to be, and you're going to do better, then you've got to win more than 9 or 10 games because that's what Flo did with no offense. And that defense under Boyer or under Flo was the same thing. They used to give up all kinds of yards. They'd bend all kinds of ways, but they wouldn't break, and they'd make a play or two. It's kind of what's gone on all year. They have bent, but they usually make a play or two, like even in the Buffalo game last week. They got you the late turnover. They do enough to get you by. That's what they've done for several years now. They're not a great defense. They never were a great defense. They are a opportunistic defense. But it's the offense that had to make the difference. And the offense has failed to make the difference in all of these key moments. They're all close games. San Fran, the Chargers, they're all close games. Green Bay, the Bills, they're all close games. And what fails? Mike McDaniel, Tua, and the offense. Well, I can't, Tua 3 out of 4 weeks because Tua didn't fail in the Bills game. So Mike McDaniel has a lot to learn from. And I'm going to be very, very critical in watching his progress next year. Okay? Because if I don't see any progress, you're out of here. I'm off the bandwagon for Mike McDaniel. A lot of the shit that went on this year, he better grab that eraser and get rid of it off the board. Okay? We have no use for him whatsoever if he can't learn. If he can't learn to stick with the running game when you're supposed to, we have no use for this. None. If his people can't, there's somebody that is paid to watch all the plays, to make sure every reception is made, every run, that there's no fumble, that there's no, and they failed with that tight end. And he was at the podium. Well, nobody told me. Well, that's your fault, dude. Whoever you paid up in the booth to watch all these plays, well, guess what? They failed because you didn't challenge it. That's on you, Mike McDaniel. Tua has a dependency of throwing to Tyreek Hill. And by the way, this is not the first time I talk about this. Those of you that follow the show, just in case if you just tuned in and this is your first time watching the show or listening to the show and you're downloading it, I've talked about this several times already throughout the weeks. He has this tendency of locking into Tyreek and throwing it to Tyreek no matter what. That's your fault, Mike McDaniel, because he's been doing it for several weeks. Why haven't you broken that habit? So next year is an incredibly critical year for Mike McDaniel. He needs to show me that he can grow from all of these mistakes. And by the way, they become, for a smart guy, they become stupid mistakes. Because once you look, you and I are going to make mistakes, right? But if you continue to do the same thing over and over again, well, then, there's a level of ignorance there. That's what it is. And, I saw your boss run himself right out of a Super Bowl. I just saw you do the same thing in a game last week against the Bills. You had a chance to extend plays, extend drives by running on 3rd and short, and you kept passing. And you kept failing every single time. And I swear to God, like I said last week, it felt like Tin Cup. And if you've never watched the movie Tin Cup, go watch the movie Tin Cup. If Mike McDaniel was a golfer, he would be Tin Cup. There's too much stubbornness there, and he's got to change. He's a fantastic coach. He's got a great mind for offense. He's got a terrific personality. But look, the shit has hit the fan. And this is his job to kind of fix it, and he can't right the ship. So I got to tell you, while they were mediocre, they were consistent, and they were more consistent than even the offense, especially the special teams, the defense. The much maligned defense by some of you out there never got blown out. Never got blown out the entire year. Kept you in every single game. Yet, the offense was fantastic in some games, and in others, when you needed them, they failed. Defense kept you in every game. Every single game this year. They kept you in every game. If you actually are objective and you sit back and watch and really take note at what's gone on, with all the points and all the pizzazz and all the Tyreek Hill explosive plays and Waddle explosive plays, the offense is the one that really doesn't do the job on a consistent basis. They flash. And that's a problem. You flashed for half a season. You're not flashing in the second half of the season. You flash for a half. You disappear in the second half. That's on Mike McDaniel, man. So you've got to find a way to make better decisions with your personnel by playing Braylon Sanders multiple times when he's not ready to play. You've got to learn to use the running game when it's actually working. If it's not working, I understand you've got to depend on the passing game, and I have no problem with that. But when it's working, you better know. You better keep your quarterback disciplined when he has a dependency of throwing to one guy way too much. And I know he's special, but it can't be thrown when there's multiple players. And Tua yesterday also, in one instance, hung on to the ball. And that's part of frustrations, not playing well. And you start to do stupid things and you start to reach. And these are the things that happen. You got a long losing streak going on. You're building up and you start doing stupid things and you fumble. And you got lucky that it got, recovered. And then you try that shovel pass, another stupid play on your part because you're forcing the issue, because you're in desperation mode trying to win a game. And you're also trying to end a losing streak in the middle of a playoff run in December. So it's all mounting on you, and you're responding in the worst way possible. So Tua's got a lot to look at, check in the mirror, find himself again, get back on track. Because if you don't, next year will be your final year. Because it will be the same thing as McDaniel. You will assess. If you can't adjust, if you can't get it right, then you have to then move on. And that's what's going to end up happening. Okay? Well, I'm not giving up on Tua. I'm also not unrealistic. He's going to have his chance to come back next year. He's already ruined his chance for a contract extension. We talked about that last night. You can go and check the conversation. I'm sure Sean put that as a rant. And so it's up to him now to kind of fix all of this. It's up to Mike McDaniel now to fix all of this. Now, is there a glimmer of hope this year to fix it? Yeah, of course. But it requires you winning the next two games and going into the playoffs and actually winning in the playoffs. Right now, I don't see a team that's going to win in the playoffs. Not the way they're playing. I mean, let's be honest now. Enough of the bullshit already. We keep waiting for the team that was early on in the season, smoking fools and all that stuff. But right now, we have to figure that teams are figuring out what Mike McDaniel's trying to do. Clearly, all of his co-workers own him because Robert Salah beat him, right? Shanahan beat him, and LeFleur beat him. So all the guys that work with McDaniel are like, yeah, nice guy, but we got you. We own you. So he's certainly not the biggest genius out of the bunch, right? I mean, if we're going to call it like we're going to see it, right? The problem, don't get blinded by all the yards and all the points and all the touchdowns. Get focused by all the substance, okay? The substance is we're in December. Are you winning? No. The substance is you're playing against some of your former coaches, co-workers. They seem to know you because they seem to be beating you. That's the substance. The substance is you got an opportunity to run and you're not smart enough to continue to run. That's the substance. So that's the stuff we have to focus in on. Don't focus in on the shiny little toy like you did last year with Flo, and you might be doing it with Mike McDaniel right now. Okay? Mike McDaniel has a lot to work on. While he has a lot of good qualities, he also has a bunch of faults that he needs to correct. So we'll see. There's a glimmer of hope for this year, but it requires actually winning in the playoffs. That's the only way you erase this memory. Winning these two games don't mean shit to me. I've seen this story before where you sneak into the playoffs, you back in, you get your ass kicked, you move on. That's not what I'm looking for. That's not what I wanted Tua and McDaniel for. Okay? Any clown can do that. I've seen terrible coaches in the past sneak into the playoffs and get spanked in the first round. That's nothing new in Dolphin land. I already told you, Mike McDaniel failed to impress me this season already. Okay? Yesterday, he had his last chance to impress me because he could get to 11 wins. Now he's going to end up maybe with 9 or 10. Not impressed. That's what you inherited, dude. You haven't done jack shit. You did well with Tua, at least. You got more out of Tua than obviously the clown before, but that's not saying much. I mean, Brian Flores would have no offense if it bit him in the ass. But Mike McDaniel, my brother, you know, you got to do your job, and you're not doing your job. You had an A early on, and now you've got an F. So you're right around C. Typical Dolphins, middling, not better than the worst teams, but not good enough to beat the upper echelon teams. That's been the Dolphins for 25 years. Rarely are they the real dregs of the NFL, right? And rarely are they ever the upper echelon of the NFL. They're always stuck in the middle, baby. They're always Steeler wheels. That's who they are. Stuck in the middle. We're back with Michael Madsen. We're back with the Reservoir Dogs. We're dancing. We got the blade. We got the radio cranking, and they're getting ready to cut my ear off once again.